I'll tell you something I've learned. Maybe the only thing I've learned in all my years that's worth anything. The world is not simple, but we act like it is. And pretending it is simple means you miss out on the truth at the very heart of things.
How do you mean?
Well, take any one thing and you find it runs a million different directions through space and time, is pushed and pulled by the thousands of things it comes into contact with. There is no route and there is no destination. To realize this is to free yourself and explore the world how it is. Maybe it would be clearer if I said it like this. The world is not simple, and that's okay.
I think I understand.
Well, let me help you. What is this?
A horse?
And what's a horse?
An animal?
So are we the same?
No.
So how are they different?
They have 4 legs.
So does a cat.
Is this a trick question?
Well, how about I change the question? What does a horse do?
They eat grass.
Does a horse need grass to be a horse?
And sheep eat grass. Horses pull wagons.
Okay, let's say the horses were the only animals that pull wagons. Could I tell an animal is a horse because of the wagon? If I took the wagon away, would it still be a horse?
Well, yes, there are lots of things that make a horse a horse.
Well, I agree. But if there was no animal to pull a wagon, would we use wagons? In Wales, if we had no ponies, would we have taken as much coal from the ground? Would we have as many jobs, communities and livelihoods supported by mining?
Maybe not, no.
And that is what I mean by the world is not simple. Not the way we think it is anyway. One thing is affected by and affects so many things, which in turn affect other things, and on and on. It can be difficult to see sometimes.
I understand now. But it's not just mining, surely.
No, it's hundreds of things. Take the grass without the ponies. A few species of coarse vegetation will grow until they strangle the land. Once there were lots of animals that fed on them and stirred up the ground, and they wandered where they pleased. Now not so much. Ponies browse on the coarse vegetation, opening it up for birds and insects to shelter, breed and feed. Here the lower vegetation supports an array of other life, ensuring a suitable habitat for things like rare chaff and horse snail. With their unique hooves, they also break open the ground, allowing new growth and pools of water, which create new footholds for insect species and habitats for them to thrive in. More insects bring in more bird species and give them the food source to grow their numbers. More birds bring in more predators, and a varied and resilient ecosystem is created. Insects feed the small birds feed the big birds. You see how biodiversity grows from one small thing.
But if I'm someone who has to work 40 hours a week, pay my bills, feed my family, ponies and the creatures that they help aren't really at the top of my priorities.
Yes, that's understandable. But let's think of it like this instead. Having lots of healthy and interacting species in an environment is biodiversity. Biodiversity boosts and protects an ecosystem's productivity. Each species, no matter how small, has an important part to play. Take for example a car. You take one part out of the engine, it will break, maybe not immediately, but eventually your car will stop working. Maybe even when you're driving at 70 miles an hour.
Okay, I get that. But does it have to be ponies out in such wild conditions? I hate to see them in the cold and the rain. Shouldn't we be feeding them or putting a rug on them?
Would you put a rug on a cow?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I feel differently about cows. I feel like we need to protect ponies more.
By letting them be out here where they belong, in the cold and the rain, we are protecting them more. Under these conditions, only the fittest survive, and these are the ones that go on to have strong foals, able to survive these harsh conditions. The problem with people feeding ponies is that they feed them the wrong food, and this can kill them. And they feed them by the roads, so they often wait by the roadside and may get killed or maimed in car accidents. If we don't put rugs on them, which they wouldn't like anyway, and let them either survive or die in their natural environment, they continue to have a great purpose.
Well, not if they're dead.
Of course, if they're dead. Just like in any ecosystem, dead animals play just an important role as live ones. Just because for some reason we find this distasteful doesn't make it any less so. By taking them out dead, we do as much damage as we do removing them alive. Their bodies then go on to nourish other animals, such as the golden eagle and fox, and then numerous different species of insects, which attract insect-eating birds and mammals. Bodies are decomposed by bacteria and rots down into the earth, providing nutrients to the microbial life in the soil, creating future generations of grass, and all who rely on this grass, the essential building blocks for life. You see, in order for life to be possible, death is required.
It is still hard to watch.
I know. It should be hard to watch. It's the cycle of life, and it doesn't mean that the ponies would be without support. Although they are wild, their owners still check on them every day, get the vet when needed, and feed them well away from roads, again when needed. This means that the ponies can have some support, but are free to live their lives in the wild. These are wild animals. Who are we to say different? Do they not have the right to roam free?
Yes, they have that right.
So you can see how they can support biodiversity.
Yes, I can.
Can you see how they support farmers?
No, not really.
Well, they keep bracken, gorse and molinia down, which means there's mogo grass for sheep and cattle. They can plough through deep snow, cutting paths for sheep to find water, food and shelter.
I hadn't thought of that.
And can you see how they can help keep our landscapes safe?
No.
Well, because keeping gorse and bracken down reduces fire risk, reduces it a lot. Bracken encroachment is a big challenge in our landscape. It negatively affects agriculture and rural water supplies. Ponies also reduce tick risk, and you don't want to get bitten by one of those. This means that not only do they attract tourists to this beautiful place, they also keep the paths clear for them and make sure they don't get ticks. And can you see how the ponies can help with climate change?
Amaze me.
Well, if you just had sheep in these landscapes, they can overgraze them, meaning there are fewer plants to hold the soil in. The soil washes away, clogs up rivers and lakes. The most effective way we have to store carbon away from the air, where it causes global warming, is in our soils. Mixed grazing by a few ponies, a few sheep and a few cattle means that you get plants with different root depths, able to hold soil in and take carbon out of the air and store it in the soil.
If you had to pay for all of this, how much would it cost?
Well, I'm not really sure, but I can't imagine that it would be cheap. The ponies do it for free. They support the systems that give us clean air and water and healthy soil to grow our food. That healthy soil locks up the carbon to stop the world we live in from heating up too quickly and killing and displacing millions. There's two other things, and I feel strongly about them. Firstly, they are part of our history and culture, part of our lives and communities. They have inhabited Wales for thousands of years and have been a vital part of Welsh history, tradition and work for centuries. These amazing animals were once strong enough to pull casts of coal, calm enough to be lowered down a pit on a sling, and trusting enough in their minor human companions to live underground for 11 months of the year. Imagine India without its tigers, Africa without its lions and elephants. Aside from the amazing role they have in supporting the systems that keep us alive, Taking them away from the people and cultures that they evolved with would be like taking away its language or its memory.
And what's the second thing?
Well, it's quite simple really. They have as much right to be here as us. Why do we feel the need to interfere? And because we interfere directly and indirectly, they face extinction and are unlikely to see out the 21st century. Their loss would change our landscape and our lives irrevocably, and not for the better.